this tutorial, I will be teaching you how to make this beanie in an adult small size, an adult medium, and an adult large size. Please follow along with my instructions for this tutorial. Hi, my wonderful crochet friends. Welcome to my channel. Today we will be making this double crochet cluster beanie. This beanie comes in 3 easy sizes. We will follow the pattern exactly for all 3 sizes. The only difference will be the rows. This beanie is made with 2 different colors of acrylic yarn. We are using Red Heart Super Saver in a dark purple and a light purple. This pattern is an easy double crochet cluster pattern. One row we will make single crochets, change colors, and then the next row will be our double crochet clusters. This pattern here is a double brim beanie, which I definitely recommend. Double brim beanies are much more comfortable, and you do not need to make it very small to stretch to fit your head. But it's an easy customizable beanie. So if you choose, you can always make it with just a single brim or a double brim, or you could just pick up with the correct stitch count for your size, make the top portion of the hat, and then join and work in the round, and you can create a bucket hat for the summer. For this pattern, for this yarn, so this is a number 4 acrylic yarn, we will be using a 5mm crochet hook. A pair of scissors, and a yarn needle of your choice. In this tutorial, I will be making the adult small size. This example right here is a size medium beanie hat. The diameter all the way around measures 20 inches. The size small will measure 18 inches, and your size large will measure 22 inches. For the tutorial, I will begin with the brim using the lighter purple, and our clusters will be made with the darker purple. To begin, we will need to make a slip knot. If you would like a single sized brim and not the folded double brim, you will need to chain 10 chains. But if you would like a folded double brim, you will need to chain 20 chains. In the second chain from our hook, we will need to make 1 single crochet. You can either go into that top back loop, or you can turn it and you can crochet into the back bump. We are going to continue with 1 single crochet in each of the remaining chains. For row 2, we will chain 1. We will tighten down that chain 1. We will turn our work. In that same chain here, this very first chain, we are going to look for that back loop of that chain. So we have our front and then we have our back. We're going to go into that back loop and make 1 single crochet. Go into the back loop of each of the remaining chains and single crochet. Continue 1 single crochet in the back bump of each chain, and I will meet you at the end. In that last chain in the back loop, we will make 1 single crochet, chain 1, and tighten down that chain 1, and then turn. And we will repeat row 2. So we will look for that back loop of that same chain and make 1 single crochet. In the back loop, 1 single crochet in each chain. And this will be our repeat for our brim. And you can choose to make these loose or tight. It's totally up to you, however you crochet. Our multiple for our double crochet cluster is a multiple of 2. So we will need an even number of rows for our brim. Chain 1, tighten down that chain 1 and turn. And for row 4, we will repeat the same thing. 1 single crochet in the back loop of each chain. For a size small, for an 18-inch all the way around diameter, you will need to repeat this pattern until you complete 56 rows. For a size medium, for 20 inches in diameter, you will need to complete 62 rows. For a size large, which is 22 inches in diameter, you will need to repeat this until you complete 68 rows. We will need to complete our ribbing, so go ahead and complete the amount of rows for your size. I will meet you back when I complete 56 rows. So I have 56 rows completed. And in case you have a hard time counting your rows, so here is your slip knot. Here is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on. And that is how you count your rows. And I needed 56 rows for a size small. A size medium needs 62 rows. A size large needs 68 rows. So I ended on row 56. I will chain 1. And I will pull and tighten that down. I will turn my work. And now it is time to join our ribbing together. So I have my ribbing here. I have both ends folded together. I have my yarn tail on this end. What we will do now, we are going to single crochet both sides together, and we are going to do this in the outside loops. So on this side, I need the front loop, and on this side, I need that back loop. I'm going to insert into that front loop here. And I'm going to go into the back loop on the opposite side here. Yarn over and pull through both of those loops and single crochet. So front loop here and back loop here. And single crochet. I'm going to do this all the way across to close this ribbing together. Just like this. That way our ridge looks very similar to the ridges we already created. Go ahead and finish this, closing the side completely together, and I will meet you back at the end. Our next step is we will pull up our loop, remove our hook. Here's our ribbing, fully joined. Now we are going to grab and we are going to pinch it together like this. Go all the way around, just like this. Insert our hook. Now we need to find that ridge. So this ridge here is the single crochet in those outside loops that we just made. And then we also have it here. So I'm going to try to line those up the best I can. Chain 1. I'm going to go back in, but I'm going to go down a little bit. So not in this chain, but in this chain. I'm going to go down 2 chains down and insert and go through that front part of the ribbing. And now I'm going to find that back part here, and I'm going to go down 2 chains here. Yarn over and pull that through and make 1 single crochet. We will need 1 single crochet for each row, and I have 56 rows, so I need 56 single crochets. And let me show you something really quickly. So right here at the top of your ribbing, you'll see right here that has 3 chains combined. Right here, that's only just 1 loop, that's only 1 strand. And then right here is that ribbing part, which is much more sturdy than that 1 strand. So what we are going to do, we're going to go into right here. So we are going to skip this 1 strand because that's not strong enough. I don't want to put my stitch into that. And I already have 1 single crochet made. So I'm going to go in right here. And then I'm going to look here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in on the opposite side. And I'm skipping. I'm going in right before that 1 little strand there. And I'm going to make 1 single crochet. And I'm still using the same color. So I have 2 single crochets. Now I'm going to skip over that 1 strand here and that 1 strand here. I'm going to go directly into this ribbing here. So I'm not going to go into that first chain. I'm going to go into that second one. I'm going to insert, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to insert on the other side and single crochet. I'm going to do the same thing. So here you see this is a row. This right here, this 1 loop, and this here is the same row. I just don't want to go into that 1 strand. So I want to go in right here. Do the same thing on the opposite side and single crochet. And now we're skipping over that 1 strand. We're going to go into that ribbing. And we'll look here and I see that ribbing and single crochet. We are going to continue this all the way around. Then once we're done, we're going to count and make sure that we have an even number of single crochets. Go ahead and finish this up. And this is our row 1 for our body of our hat, our single crochets, joining and closing for a double brim. I will meet you back at the end for our next step. I counted my single crochets and I have 56 single crochets. Now I am going to slip stitch join into that single crochet chain. Pull that a little tight. Now I will switch colors. I will grab my yarn here and I will pinch. I will yarn over and pull through. Chain 2. Which technically I have 3 chains here. So now I'm just going to pull this light purple and dark purple. So I'm just going to pull them both down. I will skip the same chain. So this very first chain here, our same chain, I will skip that chain. And in the next chain, we will make a 4 double crochet cluster. So I will yarn over for a double crochet, skipping this chain, and I'm going into the next. And I am going to crochet over my yarn tails, so I will just lay those in the front here. And we'll yarn over and pull through and up, yarn over and pull through 2, and now I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to repeat this 3 more times in that same chain. Total of 4. So I have 4 double crochets here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops. And that is our double crochet cluster. We will now chain 1, skip 1, chain 1. We will skip the next chain, and into the next we will make another 4 double crochet cluster, which is 4 double crochet together. So I'll skip the next chain, and then in the next go into that chain, and I'm going to crochet over my yarn tails. Make that 4 double crochet together. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through all 5. Chain 1. Skip 1. Then 4 double crochets together in the next. And repeat. Chain 1, skip 1, and then cluster. Go ahead and repeat this all the way around for row 2, and I will meet you back at the end. At the end here, I made a double crochet cluster in the very last chain. And the reason why is because that same chain we began with, we skipped that one, and then in the next made the double crochet cluster. So in your very last single crochet, you're going to want to make a double crochet cluster. You're going to slip stitch join. We're going to go into that first chain you see here. So we'll skip over those chains, and in this chain here, that very first chain for your double crochet cluster, we will slip stitch join. Now we will switch colors. So we will pinch and hold right here, chain one. I'm going to take that purple and I'm going to pull that down, and it's going to tighten that down. So I will create a chain with that new yarn here. In the same space here, we will make 2 single crochets. And this is row 3 with our new color. I'm going to crochet over top of my yarn ends, so I'm just going to lay them in the front. And in this space right here, I'm going to make 2 single crochets. It's 1, and that's 2. Chain 1. We will skip the cluster, and in a space right here in between those 2 clusters, we will make 2 single crochets. And all sizes are following the same exact pattern. And that is what your work should look like. After you make your 2 single crochets, chain 1, skip over the cluster, and right here in the space in between those 2 clusters, 2 single crochets. Chain 1, 2 single crochets in between those 2 clusters. Continue on with this pattern all the way until the end of this row, and I will meet you back then. I am at the end of row 3. I just finished my last 2 single crochets in between my 2 clusters. I chained 1, and now I will slip stitch join. So I'm going to slip stitch join into that first single crochet chain. Pull that tight. Now I will change colors. We will repeat row 2. So our repeat rows are row 2, the clusters, and row 3, the 2 single crochets, chain 1, skip 1. So I'm just going to repeat what I did before for row 2. I will skip over the 2 single crochets, and I will make my cluster in this chain 1 space here. The chain 1 in between the 2 sets of single crochets. go into this same space here and make my double crochet cluster. Now 5 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through all loops, chain 1. I will skip the 2 single crochets, and in this chain 1 space here, I will make my cluster. Right here. Pull through all loops, chain 1. So I'm just repeating what I did before. Five loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, chain 1. Chain 1 space, 4 double crochet cluster. Pull through all 5 loops, chain 1. We will repeat this pattern all the way around for row 4. Go ahead and repeat this pattern all the way around. Make your last cluster in this last chain 1 space here, and I will meet you back at the end. So we are at the end of row 4. I made my last cluster stitch right here in that space right after the 2 single crochets. Chain 1. Now we'll go ahead and slip stitch join. So when you pull these chains, you'll see that first stitch right there. We're going to go into that stitch and slip stitch join. We will change colors again for row 5. And pull those down, chain 1, and we will repeat row 3. Row 3 are the 2 single crochets in between the clusters. Chain 1, skip the cluster, 2 single crochets in between the 2 clusters. And this is row 5 of the body of the hat. Chain 1, skip over the cluster, in between the 2 clusters, 2 single crochets. go ahead and finish up this row for row 5, and I will meet you back at the end. We are at the end of row 5, and I made my 2 single crochets, chain 1. We're going to skip over this last cluster here, and we will slip stitch join into that chain of that first single crochet. We completed rows 1 through rows 5. For size small, for row 6, you will begin your decreases. For size medium and large, you will repeat row 2 and row 3 one more time. So from rows 1 through 7, you will do the same pattern here, this 2-row repeat. So for row 6, for medium and large, you will repeat rows 2 and row 4, and then you will change colors and you will repeat one more time, and then you will begin your decreases for row 8. We will now change colors. And this will be this is row 6 for size small, and this is also row 8 for medium and large. We will skip the first 2 single crochets. We will go into our first chain 1 space, which is right here. We will make 1 regular 4 double crochet cluster. In this next chain 1 space, 1 cluster. Chain 1. In the next 2 chain 1 spaces, we will make a 4 double crochet together. So we are going to join these 2 chain 1 spaces into 1 cluster. And this is for all 3 sizes. We will go into this next chain 1 space. Make 2 double crochet together. We have 3 loops on our hook. Wrap the yarn around your hook. Go into this next chain 1 space and make a 2 double crochet together. So we have 4 double crochets, 2 here and 2 here, uncompleted. We have 5 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, and that is a 4 double crochet together using 2 chain 1 spaces. We will now all 3 chain 1, for all 3 sizes. In the next 4 chain 1 spaces, we will make 1 4 double crochet regular cluster in each 4 chain 1 spaces. Into this next chain 1 space and make 1 cluster. chain 1, next 3 chain 1 spaces, 1 cluster, chain 1, next 2 chain 1 spaces, 1 cluster, chain 1, next chain 1 space, 1 cluster, chain 1. In our first chain 1 space, we have 1 regular cluster. We joined the next 2 chain 1 spaces into 1 cluster. The next 4 chain 1 spaces, we have 1 cluster in each. For all 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, we will make 1 more decrease. The next 2 chain 1 spaces, we will join together with a 4 double crochet cluster, just like before. That's 2 double crochet together. Wrap the yarn around your hook, insert into this next chain 1 space and repeat. We have 2 double crochets here, 2 double crochets here, 5 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 5, joining those 2 chain 1 spaces into 1 cluster. Chain 1. For size small, in the next 10 chain 1 spaces, you will make 1 double crochet cluster in each of the 10 chain 1 spaces. For size medium, you will do this in the next 13 chain 1 spaces. For size large, you will do this in the next 16 chain 1 spaces. And I am doing a size small for this tutorial, so I will make 1 4 double crochet cluster, a regular cluster, in the next 10 chain 1 spaces. Go ahead and complete your clusters for your size, and I will meet you back once we are finished. I completed the amount of clusters that I needed for my size. For size small, you need 10 clusters, 10 regular clusters in a row. For size medium, you need 13 clusters in a row. And for size large, you will need 16 clusters in a row. The next step for all 3 sizes, the next 2 chain 1 spaces, we need to make a decrease, just like before. We'll go into that next chain 1 space and make the 2 double crochet together, uncompleted. Wrap that yarn around your hook one more time. Go into that next chain 1 space and make 2 uncompleted double crochets together. That's 4 uncompleted double crochets together. We have 5 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through all 5, chain 1. Our next step will be a repeat of what we did in the beginning, but backwards. So for the next four chain 1 spaces will be regular clusters. And this is for all 3 sizes. We have 5 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 5. Chain 1, next 3 chain 1 spaces, 1 cluster. Chain 1, so it's 2 clusters so far. Three clusters so far. Four clusters, chain 1. For all 3 sizes, you should have 3 chain 1 spaces left. In the next 2 chain 1 spaces, make a 4 double crochet together using the 2 chain 1 spaces, just like before. 2 uncompleted double crochets together. Wrap the yarn around your hook, dip down into that second chain 1 space, and repeat. Four double crochets together, chain 1. In the last chain 1 space here, 1 regular cluster. Chain 1, and now we need to slip stitch join into the chain of that first cluster. We just completed row 6 for a size small, row 8 for a size medium, and row 8 for a size large. For all 3 sizes, we need to change color. Chain 1, tighten down our yarn tails. For all 3 sizes, we will make 2 single crochets in this first open space here in between our clusters, just like before. Chain 1, skip over the next cluster in the next chain 1 space in between the 2 clusters, 2 single crochets. chain 1. We will repeat this all the way around for this row. This right here, where we decreased, joining the 2 chain 1 spaces together into one cluster, we will skip over that, and in between this cluster and this cluster, we will make our 2 single crochets. Chain 1, skip the cluster, into the chain 1 space, 2 single crochets. So we are repeating row 3 here. Anytime we do this row here with the 2 single crochet, chain 1, skip 1 cluster, 2 single crochet, we will not be decreasing. Go ahead and continue this row for all 3 sizes, and I will meet you back at the end. After you make your last 2 single crochet, chain 1, skip that last cluster and slip stitch join into the first single crochet of the row. Change colors. In this next row for a size small, this is row 8. For medium and large, this will be row 10. We will change colors and chain 2. We will tighten down our yarn tails here. We will be repeating what we did before for row 6 for a size small and row 8 for medium and large. We will repeat the same process. We will skip over the first 2 single crochets into this first chain 1 space. We will make 1 cluster. Chain 1. In the next chain 2 spaces, we will make that decrease. We'll go into that next chain 1 space and make 2 uncompleted double crochets. Wrap the yarn around our hook, go into that next chain 1 space and make 2 uncompleted double crochets. So we are making the 4 double crochet together using the 2 chain 1 spaces. Yarn over, pull through all 5 loops on our hook, chain 1. We have our first decrease of this row. The next 4 chain 1 spaces, we will make 1 regular cluster in each of those 4 chain 1 spaces. Chain 1 into that next chain 1 space, 1 regular cluster. Chain 1, repeat in the next 2 chain 1 spaces, 1 regular cluster in each. Chain 1, in that 4th chain 1 space, 1 cluster. So for all 3 sizes, we are repeating the same thing. Chain 1. We are repeating what we did 2 rows below. We made 1 regular cluster in our first chain 1 space, 1 combined cluster, combining 2 chain 1 spaces into 1 cluster, and then the next 4 chain 1 spaces, 1 regular cluster in each. So for all 3 sizes, our next step, we will need to make a decrease in the next 2 chain 1 spaces. So we need to combine the next 2 chain 1 spaces into 1 cluster, just like before, for all 3 sizes. So it's 2 uncompleted double crochets, go into that next chain 1 space and repeat. We have 4 uncompleted double crochets, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, chain 1. Our next step will be, for size small, you will make 1 regular cluster in the next 6 chain 1 spaces. For size medium, you will make 1 regular cluster in the next 9 chain 1 spaces. And for size large, you will make 1 cluster in the next 12 chain 1 spaces. Go ahead and complete what you need for your size, and I will meet you back after I complete 6 clusters. After you complete the amount of clusters you need for your size, for all 3 sizes, our next step will be to make a decrease in the next 2 chains. So the next 2 chain 1 spaces, we will make that 4 double crochet together. So 2 uncompleted in the next chain 1 space, and then in the following chain 1 space, another 2 uncompleted double crochets. We have 4 uncompleted double crochets, yarn over, pull through all 5, chain 1. For all 3 sizes, in the next 4 chain 1 spaces, we will make 1 cluster in each. After you complete those 4 double crochet clusters in a row, you'll chain 1. You should have 3 chain 1 spaces left. In the next 2 chain 1 spaces, make a 4 double crochet together decrease, just like we did before. chain 1, in that last chain 1 space, make 1 regular cluster. Chain 1. Now it is time to slip stitch join at the end of our row. We need to find that first double crochet chain here. Slip stitch join. And now you can see our beanie hat is starting to curve, which is perfect. That is exactly what we need. We will now change colors and prepare for the next row. For all 3 sizes, we will do the same process. We will change colors. Tighten that down. And this row will be our 2 single crochet, chain 1, skip 1 cluster. No decreases for this row. Chain 1, skip 1 cluster, repeat in the next chain 1 space. Go ahead and continue this pattern for this row for all 3 sizes, and I will meet you back at the end of this row. For our next row, we will change colors. We will begin our clusters in the next chain 1 space. For a size small, this will be row 10. For a medium and a large, this will be row 12. In this first chain 1 space, we will make 1 regular cluster. Chain 1. For all 3 sizes, in the next 2 chain 1 spaces, we will all make a 4 double crochet together decrease, just like before. Into the next chain 1 space, we'll make 2 uncompleted double crochets, jump over to the next chain 1 space, and make 2 uncompleted double crochets. We have 4 uncompleted double crochets. Yarn over, pull through all 5 loops to combine the cluster into 1. Chain 1. For all 3 sizes, in the next 2 chain 1 spaces, we will make 1 cluster in each. For all three sizes, in the next 2 chain 1 spaces, we will make our decrease. So we will make that 4 double crochet together, combining those 2 chain 1 spaces, just like before. 2 uncompleted double crochets, jump over to the next chain 1 space and make 2 uncompleted double crochets, 4 uncompleted double crochets, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops to combine the cluster. Chain 1. In the next 2 chain 1 spaces, regular double crochet clusters, and this is for all 3 sizes. And now we will repeat. In the next 2 chain 1 spaces, combined, making that 4 double crochet 4 together, combining those 2 chain 1 spaces into 1 cluster. Then the next 2 chain 1 spaces, 1 regular cluster in each, and then repeat the decrease in the next 2 chain 1 spaces. So we will repeat this all the way across. So the next 2 chain 1 spaces will be a decrease. Chain 1. Next 2 chain 1 spaces, 1 regular cluster in both of those chain 1 spaces. Next 2 chain 1 spaces, combine those together with our decrease. And then repeat. We'll repeat this pattern all the way around until we are finished. And then decrease in those next 2 chain 1 spaces. And I am doing a size small, so I'm at the end, and this last chain 1 space is just a regular cluster. Chain 1 at the end, and then I will slip stitch join into that first chain of that first double crochet cluster. our next row, we will repeat the 2 single crochet into that same space here right before our first cluster. We chain 1. Now we will make our 2 single crochets. Chain 1, skip a cluster into the next chain 1 space, 2 single crochets. Chain 1, skip the cluster and into the next chain 1 space, 2 single crochets. Chain 1. We will repeat this all the way around for all 3 sizes. Go ahead and continue this row, and I will meet you back at the end. At the end, after you make your last 2 single crochets in your chain 1, we will skip that cluster, and then we will slip stitch join. We will switch colors. We will chain 2 and pull that down. So we have our 2 chains. For all 3 sizes, what we will do next, in each 2 chain 1 spaces, and in each chain 1 space, we will make our decrease. So in this next chain 1 space, we'll make the 2 uncompleted double crochets. Wrap the yarn around our hook, dip down into the next chain 1 space, and make 2 uncompleted double crochets. We have 4 uncompleted double crochets. Yarn over, pull through all 5 loops to combine into 1 cluster, chain 1, and we will repeat this in every 2 chain 1 spaces. Next 2 chain 1 spaces, we will make that decrease. And this is for all 3 sizes. Chain 1 and repeat. We will repeat this all the way around, combining and joining each 2 chain 1 spaces into 1 cluster. Go ahead and repeat this in every 2 chain 1 spaces all the way around until the end, and I will meet you back then. Once you reach the end of this row, if there's only 1 chain 1 space left, just go ahead and make one regular cluster. Chain 1, and we will slip stitch join into that first double crochet cluster chain. And for this tutorial, I chose to do a size small. So I have a small hole here at the top. If you would like, you can go ahead and join your yarn needle into your yarn tail, and you can go ahead and close this at the top if you would like, or for the size small and the size medium, if you would like to do one more row before you do this, you can change color with your next color, and we can do a single crochet in each chain all the way around, then begin to close our top. If you are doing a size large, what I want you to do is I want you to complete the last 2 rows that you just completed. So for a size large, you will have a much bigger opening. And what I would do is I would join with your next color and do your 2 single crochet, chain 1, skip 1 cluster, 2 single crochet, chain 1, skip 1 cluster, then change colors and repeat this last row here where we made a 4 double crochet together in each of the 2 chain 1 spaces all the way around. So that is what I would do for a size large. I would repeat this last row here of the cluster and the last row here of the single crochet. And then once you complete that, then I want you to change color, and I want you to chain 1 with your new color and tighten that down and make another chain. In each chain 1 space, and in each cluster, make 1 single crochet all the way around, creating a nice clean edge for the top. So I'm just making 1 single crochet in each cluster chain and in each chain 1 space. Go into this cluster chain, make 1 single crochet, make 1 single crochet in that chain 1 space. I'm crocheting over top of my yarn tail of that other color. I'm going to go into that chain 1 space here in between the clusters and single crochet. Then go into the chain of the cluster and single crochet. I'm just going to repeat this all the way around for my last row. We'll slip stitch join in that first single crochet chain, and give you a look at the top. So now we have a really nice color change here. Our hole is only the size of a quarter, which is perfect. So that is what your last row should look like. Now it is time to clip our ends and grab our yarn tail. Or not our yarn tail, our yarn needle. Clip our ends and grab our yarn needle. And I need a long enough yarn tail to weave in and close this top. And I really only need about 10 to 12 inches to weave in. I will need to weave in any and all of my yarn ends that I do have. I have a yarn needle here, and this here is just a piece of wire that I folded in half and twisted at the end. This will help me to pull this thick yarn through the small eye of the needle. Here I have a loop. I'm just going to pull that yarn tail and pull it through that loop and bind that off. And here we have that small hole here. I will thread this thick yarn into this little, what could we call it? A thread, a needle threader, I guess you can call it. It's just a homemade needle threader. And then I just pull that through. What I will do now, I will go into all of the front loops of each chain. Only the front loops. I won't go into both loops. Only the front loops of each chain. I will do this all the way around. And if you would like to put a homemade pom-pom beanie or pom-pom for your beanie, that would be great. I would go ahead and get that ready as well. So I've gone into the front loops of only about 4 or 5 chains. Now I'm just going to squeeze that closed. I'm going to continue to go into the front loops only of each chain. I'll probably go into the next 4 chains, front loops of the next 4 chains, and then I'll squeeze it closed again. So I'll just pinch and squeeze it closed. And repeat. And then I'll just squeeze it closed. And now I'll just pinch and hold. Squeeze it closed. So now I have this closed. I believe I have one more chain left here. Now I'm going to go into right here where I began. pull. And having this really sharp, thin yarn needle really helps to get into those small, tight spaces. So now I'm just working it into a circle. So I'm threading in through those threads that I went into for those front loops. I'm just working my way around, and this helps to keep that secure. I really like this yarn needle that I got. These yarn needles, by the way, I got at Walmart. They're called Hello Hobby doll needles for yarn and heavy thread. I really like these. It was $2 and it came with 5 needles. I really definitely prefer using this over those really thick yarn needles. So I'm just continuing going through these threads again in a circle along the top. And this is going to give a really nice secure close. Look at that. Completely closed. Looks great and professional. Now we're going to go straight through to the inside. I'm just going to go through that. I'm not going to go through the center. I need that center or the outside parts for the pom-pom. Now in this tutorial, I will not be adding a pom-pom, but you're more than welcome to watch my tutorial. I do have a tutorial on how to make homemade pom-poms. And also I have tips and tricks on how to add them with beads. Actually, beads are a really nice thing to use, or buttons, whichever you prefer. But I do have a tutorial on how to do that. So now on the inside, here's what the inside looks like at the top. Very nice. Everything's nice and very tight. Now I will clip my yarn. And any and all yarn tails I will weave in on the inside. So here I have a yarn tail hanging out. I'm going to insert my hook on the inside. I'm going to try to enter right there where it is. And I'm going to grab it and pull it through on the inside. Now we can turn our beanie inside out and weave in any of the yarn ends, but we will weave these in on the inside. So here you can see where I crocheted over my ends. We can leave those there like that, or we can clip those down. But any of the long ones, we need to weave in and hide in the color threads. So here I have a light purple. I will want to hide this in through here. So in through here, and through here, and through here, and through here. And that's basically all you need to do. So these I will clip down, these little stragglers here. They're not long enough to weave in, but these long ones here, I do need to weave these in. And I will do the same process. I will do the same process here with my yarn threader or needle threader. And with this really small yarn needle, I can fit right into any stitches that I would like to hide this into. So I'll just go back down through that chain. That's that chain 2. Here I have some clusters. I can go in through these clusters if I'd like. Any way you would like to do it. And go back up through if I want. Up through that cluster. Any way you want to hide it. Can go down to the cluster if I want. Just like that. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. Just go ahead and weave in all your yarn ends. Turn inside out. Add a pom-pom to your beanie. Let's take a look at the front of our work here. So here is the front of our beanie. And this is the size small. We made all of the decreased clusters on the back and on the sides here. That way the front looks pretty and perfect. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you make lots and lots of these beanies in all these different sizes. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, the like button. That will help a whole lot. And if you haven't subscribed, definitely subscribe. That subscription bell is right below the video right here. Click that and it will give you notification updates every time a new tutorial video comes out.